Let's take a look at the buy and sell trend indicator. First off, we're going to take a look at the 5-minute chart on the S&P 500. This indicator just simply has green arrows and red arrows for pivot points in price action for this trend indicator. As you can see, there's times when these indicators have very clear up signals and they move up, and then multiple green and red here in this particular action. It's very noisy sometimes, just like it was here. But you know, certain points are very key to look for. For instance, let's look at this one right here. This is on January 25th, 22. This day price had been consolidating around volume weighted average price, and then we had a signal to get long. We had multiple here. We had times where it's in, out, in, out, in, out. So if you were just following the signal, you're just following price action along this. It's in and out among the bands of volume weighted average price. So as this signal occurred, it not only fired that signal, but this band went from, say, zone 4, which is volume weighted average price, to zone 5, then into zone 6, and then pushed into zone 7. That is a stronger indication, these two things working in conjunction, showing that price action is now expanding above that range that it was in. So that is an example of how we use this indicator. You use it along with other indicators and what price action is doing. Let's go to this day here. You had, a range going in and out. Price action was fairly tight. I think there was some announcements probably this day. That's why this kind of went like up, down very fast, and then eventually consolidated down. Days that have announcements like this, you necessarily can't follow and expect to catch the down wave. It would have been very hard to trade this breakout, even though it pushed into that zone, and then it immediately rejected itself and then bounced straight back up and then rejected again. So on a day like this, if it's range bound, like this is the top of the day and this is the low of the day, and some announcement occurs, look for those areas to break. That is where that pivot indicator would actually come into play. I don't have that mapped out on this particular chart right now because I'm trying to highlight what this particular buy and sell trend indicator do. This is on a 5-minute chart. So on a 15-minute chart, it would be less noisy, right? So a little slower to react. So those are the arrows. Like here's another example. Let's go to this one. This is on the 27th. And so here we had an opening range and then a rejection at volume weighted average price. A break, comparing this one like a breakout over volume weighted average price. You have the rejection there, and it presses into, say, either zone 1 going to the, or zone 7 going to the upside, or over here zone 1 going to the downside, and breaks the low of the day. That's an indication that this is a pretty strong action. You could have, at this point, once it breaks that low of the day, take that trade. This is how we use this. On this particular day, this area right here might have been the high of the day, and then you have a breakout above that. So that's how we use this. It's not an absolute buy and sell exactly on those points. It's an indicator to, hey, pay attention what price action is doing. It's a potential change in the trend, and it works fairly well to help guide you along the path of what it's going to do. When a day that's trending and it trends up all day, it'll have that signal early, and you can trend it all day. But again, it's not an absolute. These are indicators to be used along with other indications and understanding different pivot points and price action. So this indicator can be configured. If you want to edit the study, hit the trend buy sell signal, and as you look at that, we have different ways you can actually make it less sensitive by increasing the multiplier, and that would be a little bit less noisy. So I moved it from 0.8 to 1.2. Let's see if this noise goes away a little bit. And you can see I only had one sell signal there when I changed that parameter. So if you want a little less noise, a little less sensitive, move that down. We like it at 0.8 because we like to trade intraday. So it kind of depends on your strategy. If you're moving slower, you can also use a 15-minute chart to see a slow reaction to it. We generally don't change the ATR period, but you can do that. And the ATR average type we use is the welders. So what you can do is use the whole. If you use the whole exponential moving average, it actually is a little more aggressive, and you will see sometimes these pivots happen earlier. So let's look at this day here. We had a sell signal about 9, and this one was about 10 o'clock, a buy signal. So if I apply that, boom, you can see that buy signal moved from 2 bars earlier. And this one I think moved too. So some of these will move around because whole's a little more aggressive. In a sense, the way it's calculated will actually throw the signal quicker, but at the same time, it actually can throw more noise at you. You can also paint the bars. Let's say you don't want the arrows to show. So I don't want the arrows, so I click arrows no, hit apply, the arrows go away. And I say I want to paint my bars, boom, I can paint my bars, and then that's instead of having an arrow, you can paint the bars. We don't do the bar painting by default because we have other indicators to show oversold and overbought. So we want to use this in conjunction with other indicators, so we leave that defaulted this way, right here. So we can see the arrows, we can see the indications of these, we can also see the oversold and overbought indications on the other studies. You can increase or decrease the weight of the arrow. Like you say, I'll make it smaller, and then you get a little smaller arrows so it's not as noisy, if that's what you like. Also, we have a feature in here where you can show a bubble. So what does that mean? Let's turn that on. If you show a bubble, it actually shows you the price of where that signal was generated. And then you have a bubble offset that just simply is a parameter to offset this bubble compared to price action. So if you put it to 2, it shows that bubble $2 below whatever the price was generated at. So I don't know if that makes sense, but if you leave it to 0, it uses a default calculation and just kind of puts it near that near the bar that it was triggered at. Okay, so next we want to get rid of the bubbles, and then we have a support line. I'll show you that. So what the support line is this little yellow bar right here. So the green arrow is a buy, so the yellow bar is the support area for that buy indication. So as price gets near that and tests that yellow, it could flip back to a sell. But it needs to close below that bar. So a lot of times in price action, we'll get a signal and then immediately we'll just wait. And price will a lot of times retest the support area, and then you can get an entry as if it doesn't close below that bar. If it closes below that bar, then the signal is going to flip to a sell. So it's a pretty tight calculation in how that works. But a lot of times when we do this, unless we get a clear rejection like this day off of volume weighted average price, but if you're in a choppy range bound day, especially in the middle of the day, like a lot of times middle of the day price action looks exactly like this. It goes up and down, and it's just hard to trade. It's not trending. It's not moving in a direction. It's really hard to trade. So what you're really looking for is consolidation zones. We use this along with the squeeze. So a lot of times, so I'll go back here and I'll turn on the squeeze indicator for you. I'll show that. See if we can see a squeeze. And sure enough, we have a squeeze. This is a strong signal, folks. We have a squeeze on. We're on volume weighted average price. We've had a high of the day. We've had a low of the day. We're consolidating. We're kind of in a flag pennant pattern. We have a squeeze that comes on. We have a rejection at volume weighted average price. We have a break of the day's low, and we have a squeeze. Volume weighted average price bars are expanding up, and we drop into zone 1. Well, that is a short textbook how we do it. So hopefully this trend indicator will help you in confirming other signals. You have, but just showed you an example of how I use 3 different indicators together: the volume weighted average price, the squeeze indicator, and the trend indicator on the 5-minute. Okay, so let's take a look at the lower multi-time frame trend indicator. So what we have here is we have 3 different bars, red and green dots. And so obviously the green is a buy signal, and red means sell. So what we have here, if you look on the right bottom side over here, we have 5, 15, and a 30-minute signals. And you can kind of look at the higher trend levels for a 30 and 50-minute and a 5-minute. So when they're all confirming, we can kind of assume it's more of a bullish indication. So like as this bar opened, we were all green on this particular morning, and we did get a buy signal here, and price action did rise into that. And so on the 5-minute we got a sell, and then we confirmed that on the 15-minute, and then sure enough we did have a downward price action that day. So generally speaking, this is kind of like just being able to look at multiple time frames on this trend indicator while looking at just a 5-minute chart can be very, very helpful. Another thing that this thing does, so like we have this 15-minute bar and it says bars 2. What that means is on a 15-minute bar, we've been on the buy signal for 2 bars of the 15. So that would be the last 30 minutes of the day. And so you can't see it here. This is a 5-minute indicator. So this is the 5-minute indicator, right? Which was on a sell, actually, but the 15-minute was still on a buy. So that's what that means. And so the first and second bar, you'll actually highlight and use a brighter color green and a brighter color red when it's the first 2 bars. So like for this one, the 30-minute bar has been on for 8 bars. So 8 bars, so the last 30 minutes, 8 bars of the 30 minutes, that's what, 4 hours, right? So the last 4 hours, it's been on a sell. And so those bars indicator kind of can just help you look at that. Another thing it does up here at the top, it shows you the trend bar, trend, it says 4 bar, and what the buy level is. So the buy level is this little support deal. So that 430.70, which actually even shows you the bubble here, that's the buy level that you could potentially look for a test and try to get an entry once the signal fires. This one's been on a buy signal for 4 minutes. On this particular indication, it's at the end of the day, we wouldn't be taking a trade just at the end of the day. We would try to be looking intraday, either early morning after a breakout or breakdown, towards the end of the day, the PM hour, you can at 1 p.m. on or 12 p.m. on, depending on your time zone. You might find a lot more price action like this day. Obviously, it was about, price really started to move around 1300, so that's 1 p.m. My time. So that's generally when we try to look for these signals in conjunction with the squeeze and the volume weighted average price. Kind of use those all in conjunction together. So hopefully you found this helpful. That is a summary of the trend buy and sell indicator and the multi-time frame buy and sell indicator on the 5-minute chart.